Hello, Scott here from Planning Center, and today we're going to talk about all things VBS, Vacation Bible School. So today's going to be a little bit different than usual, though. It's going to be a deep dive in all the things that are possible with Planning Center. It's going to be a little bit more of like a masterclass kind of course here. The things, but also we're going to be jumping around a bunch of different products, and you may not have all of these products, and that's totally okay. You don't have to do all of these things, but if you want to do something, I just want to show you what's possible. Through all the years of research of how people use our products, we believe that this is the best kind of way to do it. So that's why I wanted to show you kind of the in-depth things on handling an event like VBS. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about kind of like 4 different sections. The first one is on planning, and that's things that's like 3 to 8 months before the event. So we're going to be talking about like creating tasks in home, picking dates in calendar, starting your registrations, and also promoting your event in People. The second thing we'll talk about then is what you do before your VBS. And here's where we'll jump all over the place. But we'll cover things like scheduling volunteers, taking attendance, and communicating. Then we're going to talk about the during event stuff. So that's mostly just taking attendance in check-ins. I want to talk about what makes VBS a little bit different in that light. And lastly, of course, we're going to talk about follow-up stuff. So things, how to communicate after the event is over. Now, again, some of these things may not apply, so feel free to skip around. We know VBS is chaotic, so I just want to say let's enjoy the journey together with this. So now, if you forget everything that I say, though, the most important thing you should remember is at the top right of every one of our products is this question mark. That is our support. That is where you can get to things like documentation. What's kind of neat is there's a suggested articles section. So if you're on a page and you're just a little bit lost, feel free to just come here on that page, and there's probably an article that'll get you right to where you need to be. You can also reach out to our support. You can talk with us. We'll reply. It looks like at this point it's an hour and 6 minutes. You can email us that right there and send our feature request through support as well. So if you get lost with anything, hit that question mark and ask the questions. We don't want you to hesitate on that. Also, I'm going to be kind of cursory going through each one of the products. And if you want to deep dive on all of the products themselves, we do have other Planning Center University videos that you can see at planningcenter.com/university. Okay, let's get into it. Let's talk about how to do your planning and setup. So what we'll do here is we're going to start creating some tasks with People. We're going to pick a date, your best date for this, and then we'll also start our registration. These are things you're going to be doing 3 to 8 months before your event. Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with tasks. So here I am on the home product here. And this is usually where you land. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on. You can kind of ignore this. I want to jump over to this second tab called Tasks and show you what you can do here. You can see I don't have any tasks. I don't have any lists. I need to create a list. And usually the things that I need to do for VBS is a long list of a whole bunch of different things. So I'm going to pretend in this world, though, that I have done this before. And so I've created a template for VBS setup. So I can just create a new list with that VBS setup. What's neat about tasks is that you can actually assign people these. You can have collaborators for this list. So we're all sharing this. I'm going to go ahead and add the year here. So VBS 24, hit save. And then I can start messing with these tasks. So for example, I need to choose the best week and book my classrooms. I can go ahead and assign that to anybody that is a collaborator. I'll go ahead and assign that to myself and hit save. I can assign anything that I want to anybody else and they'll have it. Where will they have it? I'll show you. It's actually up here in the sidebar. There is a tasks. We call this the toolbar, actually. There's a tasks section, and you can see my task, the one I just assigned to myself, already shows up right there. But of course, I can go to a different list and see everything on that list, even if I'm not there. And I could do that from any place that I want. So we'll go back to my tasks here. And by the way, because I just want to show you that you can create more tasks. So I set up a template, but I needed, like for this year, we're doing something different. We're going to do a bounce house. So I can say that. I can add some description if I want. I can add a due date, and probably the task would actually be like rent bounce house, right? And add some description and assign it to anybody I want. So a lot of different possibilities. If all of your people are in Planning Center, doing that in tasks from home is probably the best way to get that done. All right, so now I got an assignment. I got to choose the best week. Let me show you how you can do that with Planning Center. We're going to go ahead and go to the calendar product over here and look at the month. So I'm probably going to have this around June. That's when we usually have VBS. And I can see all the things going on. There is a lot. Let's make it not so a lot. I want to show you this filters over here. And this might feel like it's really overwhelming. These are what they call tags. And these are things that your church would create to help organize your events. I'm going to create a VBS in the San Diego campus. So let's go ahead and create a tag, and I could just see the events in the San Diego campus. The other thing that's interesting about VBS is that I'll be using like all of the rooms, right? The one that I probably need the most that's usually scheduled is Sanctuary. So I'm going to type in Sanctuary and look at the San Diego campus and go ahead and add that so I can see that. The other room that I'll need is the gym, and those are usually taken as well. So now I can see all of the events going on in San Diego who have either the Sanctuary or the gym. And I can see what's going on. So this is June 2024. Looks like there's a cleaning here. That's probably good, but like that week is a little bit early. And then there's also a wedding here. So I can see this without having to have, a board meeting to discuss it, and we can add it all right there. So I'm going to go ahead and say after this wedding, let's do VBS this week. This seems pretty perfect. And there's a cleaning maintenance here. I could probably talk about some of these things with the people that might have a conflict. For the people that are doing things every week, maybe they can move because it's VBS. It's one of our big things. So I'll go ahead and double click on the date here, and I'm going to type VBS. Now, I need to book all of the rooms. That's a lot, right? So what neat thing that you can do is you can have event templates. So we have an event template that's called San Diego Campus Building-Wide Event. So this is going to grab all of the buildings, all the rooms and locations that I need in that building. So we're going to choose the date. We're going to say it actually starts at 9 a.m. and it goes till noon. I don't want to change this to the last day on the Friday here because that creates an event that goes throughout the whole thing from like 9 a.m. on Monday all the way to Friday. What I really want to do is set up a recurrence pattern where it repeats daily until that Friday, just like that. Then it's only booking 9 a.m. to noon on all of those things. Okay. The other thing that happened in the template is it's automatically applied a few tags, but there are some required tags that we have. So like, for example, I have department. I'm going to say this is kids elementary department, and this is probably a special event here. Let's say that. And you know what? I can add to that special event kids as well. So it's kids and special event for the event type. Now, I can't just straight up save that because I booked a whole bunch of rooms with that template, which is what I need. So I'm going to go to more options, and it's going to open the event into an edit state to show all of the rooms that I've selected. This could be rooms, this could be all of the resources. And if there were any questions that were asked about, like required to ask about these rooms, you would answer those here. But in this case, I don't have anything for the rooms and resources section. But you can see that I easily booked the whole church with that template. Another thing that I want to point out is that the event is from 9 a.m. to noon, but we have setup times, let's say every day from 8 a.m. to, look, it kind of automatically did 1 p.m. I can extend that to 3. I can do whatever I want. So I'm going to go ahead and add those times. And these are all about how do you want these particular times to show up on Church Center, to show up publicly. But we only want to show this event publicly from the 9 to noon times. So that looks good to me. We'll go ahead and save changes. And what it does is usually it just shows you all the changes that are going to be made. This is from nothing to something. So all the things I did are going to be new. But if you made some changes from something to something different, you'll see a comparison right there. So go ahead and create an event. Now that is sending out all the requests for all of these rooms to all the right people. So with that, I have already chosen the right date and communicated to all the people that need to be communicated to that, which honestly is kind of rad, all in one button. So you can see some of these things got automatically approved, but some of them aren't approved because they need to be approved by a person. Anyway, that is mostly how to set things up or how to request the right week. Now I want to show you a couple other settings that I think matter to VBS. So we're just going to jump over to settings over here and talk about Church Center. And that is this visibility. Something for VBS, this is one of your biggest events throughout the year. So we're going to make this a featured event. That way this event shows up when somebody's looking at the Church Center calendar of all the things going on in your church. This will show up at the top because it's featured. Another thing that I want to do is if you started here to create your whole event, what you can do is you can add a sign up because we want people to sign up for VBS. What I would encourage you to do is create the sign up from here. It will automatically grab some of these details and put them into registrations for you. I have already created the event because I want to show you what it looks like at the end just for this particular example. So I'm going to find what I've already created and attach to it. That way, when somebody sees this event on the Church Center calendar, it's featured. And when they click on it, they'll have the ability to sign up right from there. That's the whole point of that. All right. So we chose our dates. And we created it, and let's move on. Let's go ahead and go to registrations. And by the way, I've completed that task. In every one of our products, I can come over here, hit the tasks, and I can check that off. And maybe I have more to do. I think you get the point of that. So we're not going to keep coming back to that for everything, but there it is. Now, I've already created an event. So let's go ahead and open that up. And I just want to point out some things that are really important to understand for registrations for an event like VBS. First, we're going to go over the configuration. And the first thing I want to say is if you created this event from calendar, it will only pull over the first day and time over here. So if you created it that way, you're going to have to add the consecutive days of that event, just like I have here. Okay. Now we're going to go to selection types. This is like how people choose what they're signing up for. And I have two selection types. Let me talk to you about both of them. The first one is child. And there's kind of with registrations, you want to collect certain information based on what they're signing up for. So for example here, so you get filters is what I mean by that. So I want this child selection type to be available to all the genders and ages between 5 and 12. Now, some churches would prefer to, instead of do the ages 5 to 12, to do certain grades, right? You can do that. It's really up to you in your church. The weird thing about grades, though, that you should know before you decide that is it's all about promotions. So in Planning Center, you can promote everybody's grade with basically one click from Planning Center people. So you grab everybody there, you click one button, and they're all promoted. Now, some churches choose to do that at the beginning of summer. So they want to start looking at people in the next grade. And some churches prefer to do that at the end of summer, right before it starts. Because VBS is usually in the middle of it, parents might not know which ones to choose. So as you're creating this, you might just want to be aware of how your church promotes, when they promote, and then you can choose options like I want them to choose the grade that they're going into or the grade that they just came from. But because of that complexity, I usually suggest doing the ages filter instead, the 5 to 12 years old. A couple other things to point out is that you can require on the right side or ask for certain information. One of the best tips I can give with registrations is that you should ask for as little as possible. don't think of this as a way to collect all the information you want about a person. Instead, think of this as a way to collect the information you need for this specific event. There are other ways you can follow up to collect all the information if you want there. So we try to keep this as small as possible. So I'm going to ask for gender because I want, when it's time for VBS and I'm like putting them into different classes, I want to separate by gender. So I want to know their gender up front. So I'm going to ask for that, but not require it. I'm also going to ask and require emergency contact. You kind of always need and want that, right? Because if something goes wrong, you need to know who to contact. And lastly, I want to ask for medical notes just to make sure that they have any allergies or something, because we're going to give snacks out. By the way, you can't require that because you don't want bad information in there. So if somebody does have like a healthy kid, they have nothing to type in the medical notes, you don't want a whole bunch of information that just says not available or whatever they might type. So that's why it's always optional, because they can leave it blank. Yeah, and then of course from here you can also charge. Some people charge for VBS. This is where you would do it for this specific selection type. And you can also, if you're doing that, you can allow partial payments. So what I mean by that is like it's like a deposit, right? I want to just give 10% or whatever it is of the charge of that cost up front. That's the kind of what that's all about. So I'll go ahead and hit cancel, and then we're gonna pop over. Oh, I do want to say one more thing about charging. Something that's neat about charging is that with registrations, you can ask certain questions per attendee, and I'm going to show you that one of the most popular ones per attendee, or actually, sorry, let me start over. I want to ask a question for the whole registration. That's the difference between registration questions, one question, versus attendee questions, which is like one question for every single thing that you ask. So sometimes you want to be like, does your family need financial assistance? If you want to ask that, that is an option for you to ask. And that's where you can do like discounts and scholarships and all that kind of stuff. You can handle all of that in registrations right there. Yep. Now, with volunteers. So let me go back to selection types here and volunteers. This is just basically, I'm just going to point out at certain ages, you just have to be 18 or older. Some people like to volunteer, like junior high or high school volunteer, so you can change that if you want as well. And then the information that you actually want to ask there is stuff like email and phone number. You want to ask how to contact. You want to figure out how to contact them, right? So that's what's neat about that. Now, one more thing that I'm going to do and then come back to later is all of the volunteers, I want them to automatically go through a volunteer workflow. I want to communicate with them I want to ask them questions like, how do you want to serve? Do you want to do like food prep, or do you want to be in the band or do puppets or whatever it might be, right? But I also want to make sure I go through background checks on them. I want to do a whole bunch of other things. So we have a thing called automations that allows you to create an automation. Let me just show you what that looks like really quick. So when somebody is registered as a new selection type where it's volunteer, you can perform an action to automatically put them into a workflow in People, and you can choose the workflow right there. So I already have one set up that says this person, when they choose volunteer, it's automatically go into a VBS 24 volunteer onboarding workflow. So I can follow up with them right there. That is how you want to set all of that up with them. Okay, a couple more things to point out in registrations for VBS is we do have add-on options. That's mostly used if you want to collect like a little bit more information, and maybe you want to charge for those things. So best example we can think of is a t-shirt. If you want them to choose a t-shirt, you can have a variation of the size of the t-shirt and then the cost of that t-shirt too. You can also, I've seen people add like special activities or something right there. And I think we talked about registrations. And I do also want to, before we move on, say one more time that the idea here isn't to ask as many questions as you want. It's to ask the bare minimum questions that you need for this registrations. And then we can follow up with more questions in that workflow a little bit later. Now, I do want to show one more thing in the about. No, I think it's in settings. Yep. And that is this registration status. So this event is already linked to that calendar event that we created. So it is already showing on Church Center, on your Church Center calendar page for people to see that it's open, to see that it exists. But you might want to show that it exists, but not have it open until a certain date, which is kind of a rad thing. What that does basically is it allows you to kind of build anticipation for the VBS event. And then on a Sunday morning, you're like, all right, registration opens today. Let's, get it out there. So you can schedule when to open registration based on that. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and keep it open because I want to just show you really quickly. You can click View on Church Center up here at the top. Just what that looks like. I'm not going to walk through this, but it does have the image, it has details, it has the dates, it has the selections, and you can walk through the registration just by registering right there on Church Center. All right, so we picked a date, we created our registration, and maybe we scheduled that registration. The last thing that you would want to do in your 3 to 8 months out time frame is announcing it, advertising it, promoting your event, marketing the event. And how I would do that is through people. So we're going to go to people, and I want to show you lists. Now this, if you haven't seen this, this might feel intimidating. But I want to encourage you to try to do some of these things. I've starred a couple of lists that I'm using for VBS. But I want to show you just how complicated they can be to make you feel like it's not that scary and that you can try it. Also, creating a list doesn't hurt anything. So feel free to just try some of these things. So I want to announce and maybe continue to promote this event as time goes on. So what I'm going to do is create a list that I call VBS promoting. So they're active people not registered. I'll tell you why I do that. So this is a list of everybody that I want to promote to. I'm going to go to these rules and just walk you through this really quickly. So first of all, I want a list of everybody who can sign up for the event. So it's people who are between the ages of 5 and 12. Great. Sounds simple. But also, I don't want to just send it to everybody that's 5 to 12 because some people might be in our church database who haven't been here in a long time. So I'm going to say, but also, and that they've checked in anytime in the last 12 months. So they've been here within the last year, right? But then I want to exclude people who have registered for the VBS event because I don't want to promote an event that they're already at, right? So I've excluded that. So that will gather everybody's 5 to 12 who has ever checked in the last year, or people who have registered for last year's VBS. So I also want them included there. And then I'm going to also add that exclude for this year's VBS. So I'm not talking to them. Okay, so that is kind of the list. You can do a whole bunch of things. You could do ands, you could do ors. There's a whole bunch of things that you can do. So I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel. But now that I have this, well, actually, let me go back to the rules. I'm going to point out one more thing. That's this exact matches. So with the list, you can do all the things that you want, like email them or text them or set an automation to put them somewhere else. You can do all of those things. But if you're emailing everybody here, you don't want to email everybody who's between 5 and 12 because they probably don't have an email address, right? You want to email the parents of those people. So instead of including exact matches, what you would do is say household adults of the matches. That way, the list changes to all the parents of the people who fit this list. But if you want to send postcards, right, then you might want exact matches. So you can just always come in here, change this, and do what you need to do based on how you're going to do it. Yeah. Okay, cancel. Just to show you how you can do this, you can send, with this whole list, I can send emails. I can send a Church Center announcement. That's like a push notification with the app Church Center. Send text messages, and you can also connect with third-party products like Clearstream. So you can do a whole bunch of that in terms of communication. If that felt like a lot, first of all, I get it. It can be. Second of all, try what you want to do, and then please don't hesitate to hit that question mark up at the top right. That is a support team. We know how lists work. We know what you're trying to do generally too. So if you can kind of write a sentence like, this is what I'm trying to do, can you tell me if I'm doing it right? Then please don't hesitate to ask us, and continue to ask us for that too. We love helping with that kind of stuff. That is everything that you're going to do 3 to 8 months before. Now I'm going to move to another section, which is all the things that you're going to do like about a month before. So what we're going to talk about with the month before are things like volunteers. How do I get my volunteers? How do I train them up? And how do I schedule them? Then we're going to talk about creating your events to take attendance. Then we're going to talk about creating announcements so people know what's happening. All your volunteers know what's happening. And we're going to make some more tasks, and we're going to communicate with everybody that we need to. We're kind of jumping around all over the place, as you can see, but bear with us. This is kind of the bigger chunk here. Okay, so volunteers, scheduling volunteers. Guess where we're going to start for that? In people. Yes, that's right. You remember that registration automation that said if you signed up for the selection type of volunteer, automatically put in this workflow. So I have that automatically going to this workflow called VBS 24. Now your church might have a bunch of different types of steps based on that workflow. How we do this with our VBS is first we send a thank you email. Also, if you want to collect more information, I might send a form with this thank you email. And then we kind of bring them to send a background check request, check their status, and assign team. Let me walk you through those. So I'm going to open up Jess, for example. Right here from this workflow, I can send an email and send like a link to a form for her to fill out, to say thank you and to ask where she's interested like that. And then once I've sent that thank you email, I'll go ahead and complete the step, and it moves her to the background check request. What's neat about that is if you've connected with Checker, you can order a background check right here. So let me see. No, people. Hold on. One moment. There we go. Beep up. And then the action I want to do is order a background check. And then I can choose the package I want. So I can order a background check right from the workflow. I don't have to do it somewhere else. That's what I like about putting volunteers into workflows. You can do all the things you need to do right from that one page. Now, I want to call out these prices right here, by the way. These are specific to our like California. And that in specifically the area and the type of background check that we want. So this might be different where you're at based on the laws and rules about background checks in that state. So also, I'm recording this at a time, and you might be watching it at a different time. So they might change too. So don't hold on to that. Anyway, if I wanted to, I can choose one of these, and I can choose. Yeah, oh man, see, it even like connects me to the right location, and I can perform the action to send a background check. What that does with Checker, by the way, is it sends that person an email asking if they can perform a background check. They click a button there, and they fill out some information, and then the action is taken. So I don't want to do that right now, but pretend I did, and then I hit complete step. What's kind of neat about this, here, I'm going to just erase that because you would have done that. But what's kind of neat about this is that it has snoozed until Sunday. What we've set this to do is once you completed the last step, we made it snooze for 3 days. And the reason is because it takes about 3 days for a background check to run and to get results back. So I've snoozed this till Sunday, which is 3 days from now. And then whoever's assigned to this step will get an alert saying, hey, it's time to check the background check to see if it's cleared. Now, let's go ahead and hit unsnooze now just so I can move on, pretend we did that. I can check to see if it's cleared, and then I can perform another action where I want to actually put them in services onto a team we've already created a team, Children's Ministry Vacation Bible School. And Jess, because I know I've already asked her, I've already emailed her this workflow, I know that she's in the band and she wants to play the bass. So we're going to perform an action to automatically, or not automatically, I guess I manually did it. You saw me right there. Add them to that team. So that is like one way that you can handle your workflow for onboarding volunteers. You can make sure that they've got a background check and you can put them in the right spot. You might do that differently, and that's totally okay. But I want to show you the power of what you can do with that. You can also, just as an example, if someone signed up for that registration volunteer selection type, you can set an automation to just put them in a team immediately. And if that's what you want to do, you can do that as well. A lot of stuff, a lot of power that you get from automations and moving them into the right spot. Okay, so that is how we kind of go through the workflow of volunteers. Now let's actually get into scheduling them. So I'm going to go into services. Now, again, with most of these things, I have these kind of already set up because I don't want to show you how to make them. What I want to show you is how you could make them. So I want to show you how it's set up. So I'm going to go into the services plan, and it automatically defaulted to the order of service, but we don't need that yet. So I'm going to click this tab for teams so I can see all the teams, because what I'm doing a month before, now that people have signed up and I know where they want to go, is I'm going to put them, I'm going to schedule them. So a couple ways I want to point out to schedule them. First of all, we know that we just put Jess as a base. That's what she wants to play. So let's go ahead and schedule for that. I've got a needed position for all of the things I need scheduled right here. And I could just manually click on needed position. And because she's already on that team, like I did right there, I can click her and add her to that base playing position. Pretty simple. You want to know what's even more simple? Yes, you do. That's why you're watching. You can have a team actions thing that does auto schedule. What that does is it pulls all of like the block out dates or preferences of who wants to serve where, when they're available, and it puts them in all of their teams. I want you to let that set in. I just scheduled all of the people that I need to schedule for VBS. With one button, right? That's pretty exciting. That's pretty awesome. That's the power of Planning Center and how they all connect like that. Now, a couple things. Let me see. Sorry, just checking my... Yeah, that's probably it. Okay, I do want to point out, too, that every one of these people have a little email sign here. That means that they don't yet know that they're scheduled. We have not sent an email to say that. What we're doing really here, why we don't like immediately send an email, is because you might want to move them around. You might want to like have a state where you're trying things out and see where things need to go. So we don't want to send those until you're ready to send them. When you're ready to send them, go ahead and hit send, and it's going to send them a scheduling request. That's where you're going to have all the communication that you need for these type of people, like when rehearsals are, when they're going to have like what the order of service is going to be, how they're going to like what chord charts they're going to have. They can listen to the MP3s. That's where you're going to be communicating for those type of people. Now, I do want to recognize with VBS, you might have different types of people that you're scheduling and you need to be there. With services, it's probably most useful for a little bit more complex, a little bit more like connected people, like your band or your performers or people who need to practice and see things and get to media and songs and all that kind of stuff. With other people, you can just know that they are scheduled and you can tell them to be there the morning of, and that might be totally fine. So you can do that how you want. For example, I don't have the people who are helping with food scheduled. I just tell them to show up at a certain time via an email. All right. That is about it for services. Now, it is time for another aspect of setting up like a month before, and that is taking attendance. And usually we take attendance in check-ins. But with VBS, let's start that back in registrations. Oh, I threw you for a loop. All right, so I'm going to go to this VBS event. The reason I'm starting here is because here is where I have everybody that's registered. And what we do at our church for VBS is we have different groups of people that are connected. So I have this assignments of classes. So, for example, I have what usually happens in our situation is we have one leader for like 4 to 5 different kids for VBS, and they kind of move from location to location throughout the morning until they're done. So we've created these classes, is what we're calling it, or these assignments to get them into those right rooms. So I've got orange, blue, green. That way I can assign people to certain groups before they come to check in. You can do that fairly easily. I want to give you an example here. AJ, the reason you would do this manually is because some kids, want to be in the same groups as other kids, right? Then maybe their neighbors or their friends or whatever it might be. So what I would suggest is manually assign just those kids. So I know like AJ needs to be with Carson, for example. So I'm going to automatically assign them, or not automatically. I keep saying that wrong. Why do I keep saying that? I'm like automatically saying automatically wrong, but that's not what I'm doing. We're manually assign them, and then we can automatically do something. So we do have this auto assign feature that if you've already manually assigned everybody that needs something, go ahead and hit auto assign, and then you have some options. I want to auto assign people based on gender and or based on their grade, or something like that. So you have those two options that you can do, but you could do a waterfall or balanced. What that means is waterfall is, let's say you have your group capacity set to 5 kids. And there's a whole bunch of those, right? Do I want it to fill up all 5 kids first, and then the next people I assign fills up the next one, and the next people go like that? Or do I want a more balanced way to do it where it fills 1 kid for each group, and then it comes back and does 2 kids, and then 3 up to 5? That's the difference here. So usually I would do balance. I'm going to go ahead and hit balance, and look at that. I've auto-assigned people with basically 1 click. So that's pretty awesome. That's the best way to get people where they need to be. Now it's time to set up the check-ins aspect of it. And you can do a connection with registrations and check-ins. So I'm going to go over here to configuration, and you can see the tab called check-ins. Now I want to link attendees and assignments, those people that I just assigned, to a check-ins event of all assignments. So I'm going to click on that. And you can see it took me straight there to that event. And what that basically do is it's connected to here, and it's created locations that are basically the same name as those assignments that I created. That way, when they arrive at check-ins time, it's automatically putting them, yep, I said it right that time. See, I hesitated because I heard it. But it's automatically putting them into the right classroom based on the assignments that you manually or automatically put in there. So now that it's set up, I want to point out a couple other things with check-ins that matters for VBS. One is, first let's go to settings. If you created it that way the first time, which I didn't, I had created this before, the frequency would probably be set to none. So you would want to come in here, hit daily VBS, starts on the day that you're starting on, and then ends on that week later. So that is one task that you definitely want to do. Another thing I want to point out is the times. Why that's important is the show at and the hide at times. Basically what that means is, when do you want the station to be able to be checked in or not? Like if kids arrive at 6:30 a.m., you probably don't want them to check in yet because there's no people there. You don't want parents just to be like, here you go, there's nobody there, right? So you want to add the times for that. Now I went all the way to 10:30 p.m. just because of this test event. You probably want that like an hour or 2 after the event starts. Then you don't want anybody else to check in at that time. That's times. And then lastly, as you created this, it doesn't automatically create labels. So if you are printing labels, you would want to go into a folder, and you can add labels here if you'd like. So you'd have to do that manually as well. Okay. Set up attendance. Attendance is ready. We're a month out. We got our people, volunteers scheduled. They know when to be there and where. And we got our event ready for people to check in. Now, a month out, you also have a whole bunch of other things that you have to do. And I just want to point you again to tasks over in home. because I've created another template that says like event details. These are all the things, all the tasks that I have to do, like send emails, set up rooms for crafts, set up rooms for games. And you can see in this example, I've assigned a bunch of different people for those specific things. Yeah. The other thing that you can do, if you hadn't done this in Calendar already, by this time, you now know how many rooms you're actually going to be using. So you might want to go back to Calendar, adjust those rooms, add all the resources that you need, like if you need extra chairs in certain rooms and all that kind of stuff. So you might be wanting to do that task also, a month out. So yeah, that's tasks. Again, just pointing you to that. Now it's time to communicate to people. And there are a bunch of different ways to communicate to the right people based on how you want to communicate with them. So one of those ways, and by the way, when I say communicate to people, what I really mean is how you communicate to your volunteers. So one of the ways is that you can communicate via registrations. And we have filters that allows you to, let's say, I want to filter down to people whose selection type is volunteer, so that I just see the volunteers. There's one. Don't do a VBS with one volunteer, by the way, but this is a test account. You get it. And from here, I can send an action where I can send them a general email. So if you want those people who are like the food prep type people, you can filter down in registrations and send them an email to communicate right there. If, though, you have scheduled them, then I would encourage you to do all of your communications through services. That way, every time you send an email, they have the plan link at the bottom, so they can always easily go back to that plan and see what's going on. A couple other things that you can do is in people, I have created a list that is a list of everybody attending. So in here, I can create, I can communicate to everybody who's like, hey, it's a week out. Let me know if you have any questions, whatever you might want to do. You can also, just to point out again, that you can text them. Just like, hey, it's a week out, like get excited, and you can really promote your event that way. Another thing that you might want to do with people that I've seen very popular with VBS is we have this VBS 24 food prep and medical notes. So that is a list of all the kids who are attending. And I've created this I've selected this select columns thing. So where I just show the photo, name, age, and medical notes. That's all I'm showing in these columns. Now, I can print this list out if I want. And when I print that out, it only shows the columns that I selected there. And this is really helpful for me to print out like a food prep type of thing, so that when my food prep people come, there's just a printout on the table for them to know all of the allergies that are going out, so they know how to make the food. So that's a great way to get that information out to the right people. Okay, we've done the big chunk of things. The last couple chunks are a little bit smaller than those, and that's our during event and follow-up event. So we've already created the event, we have promoted it, and we've set up all the events like check-ins ready to take attendance. We communicated to all the right people. Now it is time to do the event. And with that, we're just going to be talking about check-ins. Now, so basically, the point of check-ins, there's kind of 2 points here. We want to take attendance. We want to make sure that the parents know that their kids are safe when they're dropping off their kids to this church. And 2, that it's as fast as possible to get them into the door. That is the purpose of check-ins. So I'm actually going to go to a station here, and I'm going to point out a couple things. The first thing is just like, what stations should you use? So actually ignore this page for a second. I want to just talk about like what stations that you should use. So first, I would say that normally a normal Sunday event, you're going to be using mostly self-station and then a few man stations to add in other people. I would say with VBS, it's a little bit different. With VBS, you probably have a lot more people where this is their first time, or maybe more of a rare time for them to come to church. So it's better to have a bunch of man stations that are manned by people so they get that face-to-face interaction as they check in. So I would say usually have man stations. If you have people that they know what they're doing and they come all the time, then you can definitely have a self station for them to check themselves in. But I would say for VBS, it's that face-to-face interaction that really matters. And then lastly is the roster stations. And the roster stations, I would say, are really used for teachers. And that's what I want to show you right here, how to use roster stations for your teachers and your volunteers to set up. Let me show you a couple things that you can do. First of all, we have rosters for basically based on those locations that we've already created, right? So on this page, you can see that I'm filtered down to the yellow room and I can see everybody I want. And if I wanted to check in from here, I can go ahead and check those people in right there, and it moves them to the Here tab. So this list is just a list of everybody who's registered and who has been assigned to that location. If they have not registered or they're not assigned, you can search the whole database right here, and that's a different way to do that. But this makes it a little bit easier. Now I'm going to go to the Here tab. There's this concept of unconfirmed. So if your church has people check into a lobby and then the kids kind of go off into the classrooms, this definitely does happen with VBS, I would say. Sometimes is that if you have that like time frame where people are dropped off and they check in and they get their label and then later, a little bit later, they show up in the classroom, that's when you would use confirmed check-ins here. So if I was a teacher, I see my confirmed check-ins. I can see that these people checked in less than a minute ago. This will automatically update as they check in. And then once they arrive, I can go ahead and say that they are confirmed. And it moves them down into this section here. And I can have this up as a teacher, and this will like live update as people check in. And once I am done with looking at this, I can hit done for today. But I want to point out a couple other things that teachers can do from here. One of them is teachers have the ability to see medical notes if they want. So this person, Carson, has a medical note, and you can see that there's a peanut allergy right there. So it's a way for your teachers to have all the information they need. Also, when it comes to check out time, AJ here has someone who is not authorized for pickup. So you can click find out who, and it shows who that person is not authorized to pick up. So you can see what they look like, what their name is, and make sure that the right people are picking them up. If there is an emergency, the teacher also has the ability to text the parent for something. So you can click here. Now, this is a test account. There's no valid phone numbers, but if there's a valid phone number, you would be able to select the person that you want to send the text to, and then select any of these messages, these predefined messages that you can send, and you can send the message right there. Now, I wonder what you're thinking is, first, Scott, I've got a lot of teachers. I don't want to buy that many iPads for the teachers for them to be able to do this. You don't have to. You can create stations directly from your phone. So they can just use their phone to see this list. And they're like, okay, but I don't want them to have access to this person's information forever because they have the app. Well, that's also fixed as well. With check-ins, we only show in a roster station, we only show the information during that hide at and show at times that you set. So they won't be able to see it after the event, and they won't be able to see anything a week later. And they're like, oh, great, that sounds good. But I don't know how to create stations that quickly. People just show up like 10 minutes before. How do I get them that information quickly? Well, we have an answer for that too. And that is with quick stations. So if you go to stations, go to this little gear icon, hit quick stations. What will happen is we have VBS roster for teachers. So what this is it sets up everything that you need to set up. Like, I want this thing to be a roster. I want it to be connected to VBS. I want it to show security codes, and I want it to do confirmed check-ins. And I want it to look a certain way. You can do all the things that you want. And if that's saved as a quick station, what happens is they would download the check-ins app. And when they open up the check-ins app for the first time, there's a QR code. And then you, with your phone, scan that QR code, select the quick station from that page that it takes you to, and then hit enter, and that they have it based on those settings. That's it. So as people come, and as you might need more people to help check people in, you can quickly make a station on their phone. So it makes it a lot easier for you. Yes. Now you might be asking, how do I add people who are not registered? Well, there's a bunch of different ways. I'm going to go to a man station for that. I do want to point out you can add people from a roster station, but you cannot add people who are registered from a self station, and that's intentional. If you want a situation where people who are checking in, you don't want them to check in unless they've registered, then that's when you use a self station for that. But a man station, you can override that. And I'm going to show you really quickly how you can kind of do that. Well, yeah. So first of all, I'm going to just go ahead and type a person's name. There's a quick tip here that if you just use the first two letters of the first name, the first two letters of the last name, it pulls it up a lot faster. So we'll go ahead and choose the Fleming household and check that person in. Because Jess has not registered for this event, I have to choose a location. And I immediately get an alert that this person is not registered. This will happen every single time that you check them in during that week of VBS. But that is how you can do it from a man station, and then you can check in. Now, this is where I want to show you 4 other options that you can use. I think it's best for you to have a new person who shows up register. That way they get all of the information. You get all of the information that you need to make sure you have all their medical information. You know who to contact if they need to be contacted, and you have all that right there. So a couple ways that you can do that. Let me go over to registrations, and I'm going to go to VBS here, and I'm going to view this on Church Center, because this is kind of a little bit of a hidden tip. At the bottom right, there is a shareable code. And this is a QR code that gets people to this page that they're on right here. So what I've seen done is you can download this QR code, print it out, and put it at like the counter of your church. That way, if someone who is not yet registered shows up for the first time, they can quickly scan that QR code, get to this page, and they can register. And then they'll be able to be checked in with that. So that is one cool way to do it. A second thing is if you don't want them to have to do all of that stuff because they're holding too many things because they're a parent, then you can do it, right? You can walk them through the registration process really quickly with that. That's why it's also important, by the way, to ask as little questions as you can on the registration, because when people need to register very quickly on the morning of, you want that process to be quick. So a third way you can do it is just like I showed you on the man station. You can override it. The problem with that is that every single day you're going to have to override it every day. So the fourth way that you can do this is have them, if you just want to very quickly check them in and get them safe, manually override it and then send them this page after that. What you can do, I haven't set this up, but you can kind of automate that too if you want. That if you can create a list in people of people who have registered, that are newly registered that day, and then automatically send them an email with a link to this event so that they can register for the next day. That way, the next days they're already in the system, and you don't have to override them at a man station each time. So yeah, that's the 4 ways to do that. Now, one more thing to call out about what's happening during the event is if your church is already using Church Center, you can use the pre-check option with this check-ins and registrations event for them to be able to check themselves in on a self-station. If that didn't make any sense, then it doesn't apply to you, and that's okay. But if it did, you can do pre-check with CCA right there. Church Center app is what we call CCA. So that is everything about during the event. Now it's time to do the things after the event. And basically all we're talking about with things after the event is sending people information, keeping the conversation going with the people that matter. So how I would usually do that is back in people. And I've got 3 options that I would show. One is lists. First of all, I have a VBS 24 attending. What I would do here is grab everybody who has attended. What this list pulls from is everybody who's actually not registered, but everybody who has checked in, right? Because if you did have those override people that are not registered but are checked in, you'll want those people on this list too. So everybody who's checked in for the event, and then I would send them information like, hey, there are more events for kids coming up, and here what they are. If VBS is one of your best promotional tools to get people to come to your church for the first time, please follow up with them. Keep them connected. They want that. You want them. They want to be in those relationships there. So tell them what's going on next. The second list I want to tell you about is the first-time event attendee. So I have a first-time guests thing that just checks for people who have ever checked in for the first time. I want to do something a little bit different, not just tell them what's going on and what's next, but I also want to give them a special, unique prize for them to come back to. So some examples I've seen are, people have we have a discovery card and you can come get a free prize or something like that. And you can send them an email with that free prize. Another example I have written down is a free coffee, but maybe you shouldn't give free coffee to kids. I'm not sure. A free coffee for the parents. That might get them back, right? Something like that. Either way, you want to follow up with those first-time peoples in a little bit special way. You can also create a workflow for people like the pastor to directly respond to those people. So I can create this list and automatically put that into a first-time guests workflow and work through it that way. A third thing that I think is really good to do is create a list of all your volunteers. And you want to communicate in probably two ways for them. One is share some fun stats. So if you go to check-ins, for example, you can go into an event for all assignments here, and you can see all the stats. This is really boring because it's a test event where I checked in 2 people. But yours would be really populated and really fun. You can see what's going on right there. So share those stats with them. Get them excited about what they've done, And then also maybe grab some quotes from people and share the quotes. Create an email special for the volunteers to get them excited about what they did so that the next time they come, they're more excited to join again. Lastly, after the event, after you've done all of those things, what I would do is clean up your workflows. So usually for me, I usually star workflows that I need to focus on, and then I just unfavorite those workflows when I don't need them anymore instead of deleting them. The reason is because I think it's a little bit better when next year I need to make these lists instead of just remaking them. I pull up the last one. That's why I have a year there, change the year, and then also change the events that they're connected to. So I only have to change one thing to make it a little bit easier for me that next year. Yeah, that's it, y'all. We did a lot. We did things like first we set up our planning. We made a bunch of tasks. We assigned them to people. We picked our dates. We created events. We allowed people to register. We scheduled our volunteers. We also communicated all the things that we needed to communicate a month beforehand. We took attendance, and of course, we advertised and celebrated what was done. That is how you can use Planning Center in the biggest way, most effective way for big events like VBS. So if you have any more questions, please don't forget to hit that question mark up at the top corner. If you were confused about anything, please also hit that question mark. Tell us what you were confused about so the next time we record this, it could be even better. That is VBS for everybody. Also, last thing, if you want to learn any more deep dives on any of the other products, we do have more at planningcenter.com/university. Thanks, y'all.